5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
All right, welcome to Prep Sports Junkies. I'm Scott Bernstein along with the big fella, Jeff Dulac. We're here every week at StateChampsNetwork.com breaking down the most pressing issues on the statewide high school sports landscape. This week, we're going to touch on some football recruiting news and notes. We've had some commitments, some visits, some rumors. Let's start off with a commitment. Southfield Lathrop defensive end, Uwoma Uwazuriki, I apologize for, I'm sure, butchering that name. 6'5" defensive end from Southfield Lathrop, committed to nationally top 20 ranked Toledo this week. He is the definition of a upside, really raw prospect that just looks like he could be a diamond in the rough. Right. Lathrop is a football team that this year just returned to the playoffs. For the first time in 8 seasons. They're closing down the program and merging with Southfield, but it's not been a program that you necessarily gets a lot of publicity. Right. So maybe not a lot of people have seen him, but there's no doubt that he's a guy that I think could be. Toledo could be reaping benefits from getting in early with this kid, and he's a MAC recruit that might, at the college level, pan out to be someone that is a power conference level player.
Right. And you look every couple of years, it seems like Southfield Lathrop turns out one or two good Division I linemen, and he certainly fits this mold. I'm not even going to try attempting his name, but he's definitely a project, but he's very athletic. He fits the mold of your prototypical left or right tackle at the college level.
Yeah. So. Let's move to someone that is a little more high profile, very high profile. Dalen Hayes, arguably the most sought after recruit in the state senior class right now. He's at Ann Arbor Skyline, outside linebacker, running back. Had been a USC commit. Now he's opened up the recruiting. He visited Notre Dame this week. Had a very good visit, according to the reports, and has told people now that he thinks that his top 3 are Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Michigan State, and that the Notre Dame visit was very eye-opening for him.
Yeah, he also visited Ohio State, and that was another good visit for him. And I think that it all comes down to where he feels he's the best fit. He for a very long time he was committed out west to USC. Seems like now he's stuck in the Midwest. He's considering Notre Dame, who I still believe is the front runner. It seems like even when he was committed to Notre Dame or USC, it still felt like Notre Dame was the front runner to land him. Ohio State, obviously, it is Ohio State and what they bring to the table. And Michigan State is sticking around. It's a school that he's strongly considering, but I still consider Notre Dame to be at the top of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, even though he's so highly rated and considered an elite 4-star, 5-star type recruit, he's still kind of a project because he's played only a handful of high school football games in the last 3 years.
Yeah, he's a guy who, when we've seen him, just the bits and pieces, he's that
you look at him and you see why people are enamored by him.
But you just hope he stays healthy. And this year, I think he had a bit of a shoulder issue, which has hampered him in years past. But if he stays healthy, I really believe he'll live up to the hype of the college.
Notre Dame is doing a lot of damage in Metro Detroit right now. Absolutely. They snared Khalid Kareem a couple weeks ago after he decommitted from Alabama. They snared the Walled Lake Central, Ade Agundeje, the defensive end from Walled Lake Central. So they're really attacking the area pretty hard.
And a guy that we're going to get to in a couple of minutes. I think Notre Dame is hot on Antoine Simmons' trail.
We can transition right now into Ann Arbor Pioneer linebacker Antoine Simmons, a junior. I love this kid. I think he is a super prospect in terms of what he's going to project out at the next level. I think he is just prototype for a power conference outside linebacker. He's fast, he's smart, sideline to sideline, he's vicious. He just picked up a Georgia offer, a Michigan offer, and as Jeff said, there are rumors that a Notre Dame offer could be coming soon. But one of the local players who Notre Dame did offer in the last week was Ambry Thomas, Detroit Kings number 2 wide receiver besides Donnie Corley. I'm sure a lot of teams in the state would want a number 2 receiver as good as Ambry Thomas, who's going to be playing power conference football at the college.
Yeah, with Antoine Simmons, he's a guy who really burst out onto the scene this year. He's a guy who really made his impact as a running back. A lot of people see the big stats that he put up there, but defensively, his performance at linebacker has been really impressive. He helped lead a Ann Arbor Pioneer defense and did a very good job in limiting a explosive Saline offense last week. They almost pulled the upset. So Simmons, I think when you look at what Notre Dame's doing in the state of Michigan, they're going after some of the big time recruits, and Ambry Thomas is one of them. He'd be a number 1 receiver on just about any team in the state.
Another name to keep an eye out for in terms of the Ann Arbor Pioneer linebacking core is Derek Hubbard, who I really like a lot as well, and he's starting to get some looks by some big-time Division I programs. He kind of reminds me a little bit of the way that Dwayne Chapman at Orchard Lake St. Mary's compliments Josh Ross.
Yeah.
Let's move to some more visits this past weekend. Nebraska hosted two kids from the area that are already committed, but maybe those commitments are loose. We don't know. David Reese from Farmington, the Michigan commit at fullback, even though he is also a linebacker. He was at Nebraska, and his former teammate, Waterford Mott, wide receiver Des Fitzpatrick, who we played with at Farmington for 2 years, visited with him in Lincoln this past week. They were there for that really monumental comeback win against Michigan State.
Yeah.
And there were word leaking out after they returned to Michigan that their quote unquote eyebrows were raised.
Yeah, they were impressed.
They liked Nebraska, and now there's some scuttlebutt that these two former teammates could possibly be looking to play together at the next level. You don't know. Like we said, they're both still committed to their respective schools, but word was that they really liked their Nebraska visit.
Right. I've heard the same. That they enjoyed their Nebraska visit. It was quite the performance Nebraska put out there for that Michigan State game. A night game under the lights, playing a top 10 team in the nation. And to pull out a win when you've had a pretty disappointing season, that has to be pretty eyebrow-raising for those players. But Des Fitzpatrick is committed to Louisville. Reese is committed to Michigan. But there is the possibility that Reese takes a visit to Louisville, and I think there is still that possibility that these two end up being a package deal somewhere.
I think we're hearing also that Reese, who's committed to Michigan, as only a fullback, he's maybe telling people that he kind of wants to play linebacker. So maybe Michigan could now tell him that they want him as a linebacker, or possibly he could end up at another school playing on defense.
Right.
Let's really quickly wrap up with a couple west side of the state notes. Corey Malone Hatcher, 4-star defensive end from St. Joseph's, visited Alabama last week. Jonathan Berghorst, defensive end from Zeeland West, I apologize. He visited Northwestern. And then we both have a guy we really like. Is only a sophomore. Jeff saw him this weekend. Muskegon offensive lineman Antoine Reed, who's the size of a small island. And he's starting to get some power conference love.
Antoine Reed is a guy who is already, as a sophomore in high school, he's 6'7", 6'8", and for a guy that size and that young, he moves incredibly well for an offensive lineman. He might be the most athletic offensive lineman in the state right now, as a sophomore, as a 6'8" offensive lineman, and you could just see the type of impact he made on that Muskegon rushing attack, which likes to run the ball up the middle and likes to really eat up a lot of clock. They were able to do that this weekend against Mona Shores, who beat them earlier in the year by running behind Reed in that offensive line. You could just tell that's an offensive lineman already at his young age is really imposing his will against opposing defense.
And Muskegon's playing some really good football.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is our Prep Sports Junkies for this week. We hit on recruiting. Next week we'll probably be hitting on, as the football playoffs continues to move forward, we'll be into the semifinal round. We'll be back here next week, as we are every week at StateChampsNetwork.com. I'm Scott Bernstein for the Big Fella. We out.